If Jesus is all man, I just wish they'd put a bit more of it into the illustrations. I was sitting in church yesterday, wrestling with this point of theology, when it occurred to me that something seemed to have happened to Geoffrey. The service should have kicked off ages ago, but he's still in the vestry. Mr. Bland is filling in with something uplifting on the organ, and Miss Frobisher, never one to let an opportunity slip, has slumped to her knees for a spot of unscheduled silent prayer. Mrs. Shrubsole is lost in contemplation of the altar, still adorned with forest murmurs, a trail of ivy round the cross, the final inspired touch. Mr. Bland now ups the volume, but still no sign of Jeff. "Arnold," said Mrs. Belcher, "there seems to be some hiatus in the proceedings." And suddenly the fan club is on red alert. She is just levering him to his feet when I get in first and nip in there to investigate. His reverence is there, white-faced, every cupboard open and practically in tears. He said, "Have you seen it?" I said, "What?" He said, "The wine, the communion wine, it's gone." I said, "That's no tragedy," and offered to pop out and get some ordinary. Geoffrey said, "They're not open. Besides, what does it look like?" I said, "Well, it looks like we've run out of communion wine." He said, "We haven't run out. There was a full bottle here on Friday. Someone has drunk it." It's on the tip of my tongue to say that if Jesus is all he's cracked up to be, why doesn't he use tap water and put it to the test? When I suddenly remember that Mr. Bland keeps a bottle of cough mixture in the cupboard in case the choir boys get chesty. At the thought of celebrating the Lord's Supper in Benelin, Geoffrey now has a complete nervous breakdown. But, as I point out, it's red and it's sweet and nobody's going to notice. Nor do they. I see Mr. Belcher licking his lips a bit thoughtfully as he walks back down the aisle, but that's all. "What was the delay?" asked Mrs. Shrubsole. "Nothing," I said. "Just a little hiccup." Having got it right for once, I'm feeling quite pleased with myself, but Geoffrey obviously isn't, and never speaks all afternoon. So I bunk off evensong and go into Leeds. Mr. Ramesh has evidently been expecting me, because there's a bed made up in the storeroom upstairs. I go up first and get in. When I'm in bed, I can put my hand out and feel the lentils running through my fingers. When he comes up, he puts on his proper clothes, long white shirt, sash and whatnot, loincloth underneath, all spotless, like Jesus, only not. I watch him undress and think about them all at evensong, and Geoffrey praying in that pawsy way he does, giving you time to mean each phrase, and the fan club lapping it up, thinking they love God when they just love Geoffrey. Lighten our darkness, we beseech thee, O Lord, and by thy great mercy defend us from all perils and dangers of this night. Like Mr. Ramesh, who is 26, with lovely legs, who goes swimming every morning at Merrion Street Baths, and plays hockey for Horsforth. I ask him if they offer their sex to God. He isn't very interested in the points, but with them, as far as I can gather, sex is all part of God anyway. I can see why too. It's the first time I really understand what all the fuss is about. There, among the lentils, on the second Sunday after Trinity. I've just popped into the vestry. He's put a lock on the cupboard door. I stand up and say, my name is Susan. I'm a vicar's wife and an alcoholic. Then I tell my story, or some of it anyway. Don't pull any punches, says Clem, my counsellor. Nobody's going to be shocked. Believe me, love, we've all been there. But I don't tell them about Mr. Ramesh, because they've not been there. Listen, people, I was so drunk I used to go and sleep with an Asian grocer. Yes, and you won't believe this, I loved it. I loved every minute. Dear, oh dear, this was a real drunken lady. So I draw a veil over Mr. Ramesh, who once on the feast of St. Simon and St. Jude, choral evening song at 6, daily service at the customary hour, put makeup on his eyes and bells on his ankles, and naked, except for his little belt, danced in the back room of the shop with a tambourine.